Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Ninth Row Podcast. Today we're going to be doing a spoiler cast of sorts. We're going to give you maybe a few minutes at the beginning where we don't totally spoil Age of Ultron. And then after that, no promises.
They win.
You've been warned. The Avengers win.
Yeah, spoiler alert, they live so they can make a third and fourth movie.
Part 1 and 2 of Infinity War.
I think all we really want to say, because we really want to talk about the stuff that would be absolutely spoilerific, is the movie was good. It's totally worth seeing in theaters. Go see it. It's made a lot of money already. It's going to continue to make a ton of money. And I mean, you didn't know we didn't see it in IMAX. You didn't see it in IMAX.
No, I saw it
did
in
you?
standard.
I've heard IMAX is great as usual, but totally a theater experience. You know, no matter how good your home theater is, it doesn't compare to sitting around 300 smelly, loud people.
I actually agree with you because I watched it, like I said, in standard, which means I didn't see it either in 3D or in the special RPX XD vision or whatever.
Right.
And the audio was out of sync with our film. So like the subwoofers weren't going. So all of the explosions sounded muted. And I just sat there and went, man, it's like watching an unfinished film.
That kills a movie, man. Especially one that's so dependent on that.
A superhero movie where explosions happen every minute.
Oh, geez.
Except for the second act. Oh wait, we'll get into that later.
I was talking to I was actually talking to some of my family about it because they wanted to know immediately after we saw it whether it was worth going to see in theaters. And I said, yeah. And I said, honestly, they've kind of nailed the whole action plus comedy balance. I thought they did a really good job because even in like every major section of action, which I think a lot of people tune out for, they had a lot of really funny moments that were just, great bits in there, whether it was Hulk biting a robot's head off or, Hawkeye, in the middle of a battle having a little bit of a monologue that's just funny, dialogue to himself. You know?
It's the equivalent of the first movie where they turn a catchphrase on its head, where like Captain America points to Hulk and goes, "Hulk, smash," and then it's funny, and then he goes into an action sequence. Like you actually thought like it was well balanced. I actually thought that the quips were coming so hard, it was almost like they wanted to start. Like it almost felt like it was trying to be a comedy. Like it almost got grating after a while.
I could see that. I didn't think they went too far. I thought it was great because to me, the comedy part of the Marvel superhero movies is what gives them their charm. Because you compare that to their biggest competitor, DC Comics. You look at Superman, you look at Batman, especially the what's his bucket Batman.
Oh, The Dark Knight?
Yeah, The Dark Knight.
The Man of
Christian
Steel
Bale
is the most depressing Superman movie ever made.
Oh, I don't disagree. Christian Bale does a great job as Batman. Don't get me wrong. But it's very dark. It's very serious. And so to me, I've always...
We have to go hard. We have to go dark.
I've always liked Marvel because they're more fun to me than the DC comics are. They take a lighter spin to things and make it funny.
Turn down the lights and bite the pillow.
Batman, no! Shut up! No, it's true. Like, for some reason... Well, I don't know. Batman's always been a dark character, though. You can go back to the original Michael Keaton's. And, like, he was kind of... As Bruce Wayne, I was going to say Bruce Wayne Manor or something. But he was kind of like the Michael Keaton Beetlejuice character, but then he'd get to be Batman, and he would just be a dark hole. He'd just be uninteresting.
Yeah. Well, overall, it was a good movie.
Batman?
No, Avengers. Age of Ultron was a good movie.
But Batman too.
Batman too. But Age of Ultron was a really good movie. It was a lot of fun.
Did you both see it together?
Yeah.
Yeah, I made a mistake
we
of
held
not
hands
being
and
able to go
everything.
with you.
Yes. We always try and see movies together, but it's actually a lot harder than, to get three normal people together.
Just sync up schedules.
Yeah.
I mean, somehow we get to do this every week, but besides that,
Well, that's because
good luck.
It's a job.
Oh, yeah. Jobs.
So anyway, let's get into the spoilery stuff. So at this point, if you have not seen the movie and you don't want anything spoiled for you, this is your warning. If you watch anything beyond this, it's your own friggin' fault. And, So who else brushed up on their comic book history before today, or at least before watching the movie? Because I did.
At least the cinematic universe.
Yeah, the MCU stuff. To be honest, I was never a huge comic book head. I think I've admitted that before. And so for the internet that really cares, I'm sorry, we're probably going to get stuff wrong. I'm probably going to get stuff wrong, but I'm working off my working memory of things that I've read. So,
well, like everybody else from our generation, I think we all grew up as either Spider-Man fans or Batman fans. So jumping into the Marvel universe it's weird because I didn't grow up with Thor and I didn't grow up with Captain America. I knew who they were. Like there was actually, did you guys ever play the Marvel versus Capcom like stuff they had in the pizza parlors?
Oh yeah,
like that's as close as I got to ever like being a part of that universe.
Yeah, it came years before us. I mean, we're all 90s babies, so early 90s, 89, 90.
But yeah, like a lot of
good
people,
90s.
The good 90s.
Now that Marvel's like the biggest thing ever, everybody's like, yeah, I'm totally a Marvel fan. No, you weren't. You just bought that shirt from Target because you watched Avengers, you loser. I hate you. Who is this person? I don't know. Go ahead.
Mike embodies the hate of so many internet trolls.
I know who they are.
But okay, so let's previously to kind of recap from our last show. I said that I didn't really care about the Vision and in his whole role in the movie, but I underestimated how much of a role he was going to have in the movie. I knew that he was going to come, but I was thinking that was going to almost end up being like an afterthought towards the end of the movie and not be such a critical part, and how that comes from all of what Ultron has done.
I agree that he's there and he actually makes a pretty good chunk of the third act. Like he's the person who keeps Ultron from being able to escape into the internet, right? Was that what he?
Yeah. He went in and basically choked Ultron out, and
he grabbed his forehead and said no.
So I was confused. There were a lot of questions that the movie left open, not because they hinted at it, but more so I had a lot more expectations of what was going to happen in the movie. And there was a lot of stuff that I was like, well, where was this, or how is this explained, or and I, to jump into it, my very first issue was that whole breaking him from the internet thing, because Ultron, we know at a minimum, was in 3 different places around the world, right?
Yeah,
he was in Stark Tower, he was in Africa,
and he was in that church,
and he was in
that city that floats off in the sky.
The city in the sky. So he was in at least 3 different places in the world. And we knew he was connected to the internet, but there at the end, spoiler, when the Vision kills the last copy of him, how do you really know that was the last copy of him? Yeah. Because if you compare it to the comic books, which I guess we're really not supposed to do, Ultron went through at least 8, 9 variations. And really, in the movie, there was only 2. There was the first... Well, I guess there was 3.
There was 3.
There was the Ultron, the scrap Ultron that they chew up, and
he was a part of the Iron Legion.
Yeah, the Iron Legion group, the parts from them. Then there was the second version of him that he built in the factory in that town,
scraps in a cave.
And then there was the vibranium version of him. So there was 3, but I mean, who's to say that he didn't make a copy of himself somewhere else in the whole flippin' world? I know that he didn't come off as intelligent a villain as I actually expected him to be. I thought he was going to be far more menacing, but he was very flawed, very
Okay, so you guys
childish.
Actually agree, too, that Ultron, like the film version at least, wasn't as menacing as he should have been. Like, for a guy who creates an entire army to attack the Avengers, he never once feels like he has, like, the upper hand against them.
Well, I don't know whether it was intentional or not.
You don't think so? I had the same argument with somebody, and they said that, and they're like, yeah, Ultron, like, he's supposed to be a peacekeeping program, and he's supposed to protect the universe, and, like, that's why he never...
He felt like a 5-year-old that you handed a magnifying glass with a bunch of ants.
Well, there's a scene where Captain America is trying to, like, take the Vision away from him, and, like, he turns around and says, "Leave me alone." I'm like, man,
yeah,
he sounded like
exactly
a teen angst.
Yeah, or just a young a kid, which I think maybe that was intentional. They were trying to play off the fact that he was so young, and like it was that learning process, and a lot of the dialogue between him and Jarvis when he first comes out and gets initiated, was very like, who am I? Like almost this birthing process of an AI. And so my only thought was, this movie is probably just going to be about the real ramp up of Ultron, because in the comics he was like a major villain that lasted a long time. maybe he's going to be a major reoccurring villain here for the Avengers, which may or may not work really in the film universe.
Maybe, I don't know.
But like that was my way of explaining off how childish and unprepared and the lack of thought that supposedly this brilliant AI villain was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was really menacing in a psychopath way, and I think James Spader did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, he did a good job of like this robot. There's a part where he's like, "Oh, you want me to stand around and just tell my entire master plan?"
Right.
Like it's interesting, like for him to flip the bad guy role, like because superhero bad guys are very two-dimensional, and what's funny is it's like a robot is the most three-dimensional character they've ever had in the Avengers. He's like at one part he's like sardonic, and then he's evil, and then he's like he's rebelling against his parents, like Tony Stark. There's a lot of different shades to him.
Yeah, I could see that. But there was a lot of stuff, a lot of things that I was led to believe was going to happen in preparation for Civil War that were not as prevalent as they are now, or as they ended up really being, in my opinion. Because like thinking there at the end, you know, and this is jumping all around the movie, I know, but there at the end when Tony basically walks away, and
yeah,
I know how that is.
Send off.
Yeah, I get why they did that. I get how that's all in preparation for separating Tony Stark and his initiatives and the whole
Captain America.
And now Captain America's got his own base and he's got his own team, and now they can kind of be divided and can come back and fight. But like when they left, there was no hint of what Tony was going to go do.
No, like there was no middle finger, like here, like I don't believe what you're doing is right.
Well, not even that. There was none of like the sideways glances or any hints to like, hey, I'm going to go do my own thing anyway, and I'm going to go work on this other program that there was no seeming disagreement between them or hint to it afterwards. Like that would have been a perfect post-credit scene. Was then you're sitting there watching Tony work on the Superhuman Registration Act,
Yeah.
Something that actually plays into Civil War. But they didn't do any of that, and they just completely killed off, theoretically killed off Ultron in a really nonsensical way, in my opinion.
In a way where it's like, okay, like now this villain, we got rid of him. That was just like movie of the week kind of villain.
It seemed like they were trying to wrap up phase 2 of the Marvel MCU.
I actually say that in my review. It's the first Avengers feels like a culmination of all the films that came before.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, we've laid all the groundwork. Now here's all of them like fighting together. Like this one feels more like phase 2 is going into phase 3, and the Avengers is like this afterthought where, okay, we bring everybody together and we see where they are, but we're not really doing this amazing thing. Like, do you ever feel like Ultron?
Your mic's falling.
Oh no,
It's not cinched down all the way.
Uh-oh. Hold on 1 second, everybody.
Sorry, I didn't.
Gene, don't do that.
I'm sorry. That's kind of the way
Other way.
That's kind of the way the middle movie of any trilogy will go, isn't it? Like it'll be sort of just ho hum. Like the first movie it's introducing the characters, it's getting them together, the team figuring out how to work together, and the third one is it's the finale. It's where they're at their lowest and at their highest at the same time, but the second one is just sort of, all right, we're just gonna shuttle the audience over to there.
I agree.
That's kind of where this movie is at. So I sort of expected it to be ho hum if you view it from that angle.
I felt like the same way with the second Hobbit movie. That never should have been a trilogy.
It should have been one movie.
It should have,
or a
miniseries.
miniseries.
Movie.
Really with any trilogy, you could just skip the second movie and skip the second movie, skip the second game, skip the second book or whatever. Just read the first and the third. And you've got the whole thing.
There are examples of a sequel being like the second act of a bigger whole. Like The Empire Strikes Back. I know that's like a nerdy thing to point out. But like Age of Ultron could have been like the really depressing second act of what's going to lead into Infinity War. Like, all right, this team's falling apart. Like, what do they do now? Like, it's going to break into Civil War. Like, everybody's at each other's throats, and then they have to come together to defeat Thanos. Age of Ultron almost feels like they were trying to keep things where they were at the beginning of the film and just kind of hint at what's going to happen. Like, and they don't do a good job at that. That's what I felt like. It just felt like another film in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, I can kind of see that argument as well. I thought, let's jump over to the creation of the Vision a little bit. That was
the half thought out creation of the Vision.
well. It seems like they've got. We've said this before. Marvel movies have a huge amount of material that they can pull from for all this different stuff, and they're taking liberties with changing things like what was it, Margaret Cho? What was the name of the Korean bioscientist?
It was Cho, the lady who creates the Vision,
who is supposedly the mother to another major.
He's like the third smartest human on planet Earth, eighth or something.
Yeah, something like that. But now, so they've taken aspects of her, or of her son's role in the Marvel universe and assigned it to her.
Yeah, it's the same thing as Ultron being created by Tony Stark instead of Pym.
Yeah, which is totally fine. But here's also something that I really find issue with. They blamed it on Tony Stark for creating him. Tony didn't create him.
No,
by his own volition. He said we were nowhere close to an operating piece of software,
and the computer just turns itself on, and then Ultron just shows up.
Which to me, because they said it. They said that the brain, or that gem basically felt like it was an AI, right? And a brain.
The one in the staff, the mind gem.
Right, where Ultron really comes from. And so when you think about it, there's this weird twist because they tried to make this connection between the Scarlet Witch and Ultron as if Ultron was a result of Scarlet Witch, and there's like this mother-son kind of thing going on there a little bit,
but they didn't allude to it enough.
But it's not
created
true,
by the
though.
gem,
right? He had nothing to do with it. And in fact, Tony didn't even do it. Was his actions in part of what led to his creation? Yeah, but ultimately it was the staff, not Tony.
But I bet the filmmakers, like, they start off and they're like, okay, these guys are gonna be like the Frankenstein to Ultron, like he's gonna be their monster, but then they backed off and it's like, oh wait, if they're the creators, then everything bad that happens in the film is a result of them, and then they're not really the protagonist anymore. They're actually like cleaning up their own mess. Like, so any human casualties would kind of be Tony's and the
Hulk's
fault.
Yeah, and I get that was a large part of what they needed to do. I mean, they needed to separate the Hulk away and give him reason to go. And it's kind of cool because they've allowed some characters to easily jump back in at any moment, but not be unaccounted for. Because if they're not included in the next Avengers movie, if you don't have the Hulk, you don't have Hawkeye, you know where they're at. Hulk's in hiding, and Hawkeye's with his family, which would really suck if they all die, like in the comics.
Yeah, they're all living on the farm where nothing fun happens ever.
I thought that was great, though. Hawkeye was so much better in this movie because they fleshed out a bunch of him. I really enjoyed that. You can't hate on that whole part of the movie too much.
I like how his wife kind of played with the idea that he's the one who's actually holding the team together.
Yeah, I thought that was actually really cool.
Somebody talked to Captain America about that.
Well,
yeah, he's the second. Yeah, he's a Captain America clone at that point.
But if you think about it, I mean, it is true in a lot of ways because Hawkeye and Black Widow were the two agents that Fury was sending around to get everybody, if not himself.
That's
so
true.
Hawkeye has always been like that surrogate for Fury in a way when Fury was underground or gone or dead, whatever it was at the time, and so I can see that. I can see how Hawkeye in a lot of ways, because they've really tried to flesh out how Black Widow is more of like one of the enhanced humans, which let's talk about that real quick. The whole how they're using enhanced humans instead of the word mutants.
Because mutants belong to...
Because Fox owns the rights to
I think
X-Men.
it's a great way of working around it.
You mean
I really like it.
Instead of Quicksilver, it's Quickslav because they're all Russian in that film.
Dork.
Yeah, how the twins aren't actually Magneto's children.
Because they can't allude to it. Well, but they didn't say that they weren't. And remember, even in the comics, Magneto's children were given to adoption or to foster parents.
Yeah,
fair.
And I guess in Days of Future Past, like there was more room to do the Quicksilver Magneto father-son relationship.
Yeah, though that screwed with time because that Quicksilver should have been a lot.
He was
younger than he was in the movie. Like they kind of screwed with that timeline a lot. Well, then because Magneto wasn't really, really, really old enough to be.
But don't you remember at the end of that movie, they kind of just go, okay, canon's gone, we're done.
Yeah, they've kind of just screwed around with all that stuff. So, but if you think about it within the real timeline, because how could Quicksilver have been a child of that time period? It doesn't make sense in the grand scheme of that universe.
Yeah, he was like 16, 17. So Magneto, who like around
Magneto
that time, he was like
would have been in his
30s,
late
maybe?
30s.
So he had him when he was in his maybe 18,
20s?
20, yeah.
Yeah, which I think they allude. They trying to make it into like this is Magneto's like bastard son in a way that happened, at Woodstock.
Comic books.
Avengers.
Sorry, we're getting too far away. Sorry.
Hey, wait a minute. But what is Wolverine going to do in the Avengers? Is he coming into the Avengers? What about Spider-Man? I heard he's going to be in Civil War.
Actually,
Spider-Man
Spider-Man
had no business in this movie.
No.
That would have made no sense at all to include Spider-Man in this movie.
Like, what were you going to say? Like, Spider-Man would have actually...
The rights for Spider-Man, I think Marvel has them back.
They bought him up.
Or,
Actually, he's going to be in Civil War.
Yeah, he'll be in Civil War, but I don't think... That never was going to happen in enough time for them to include him in this movie. But there were too many people. And this goes to my next gripe-ish thing, is they bring in the B-Team Avengers.
I liked that, though.
But I hate it because I don't like Don Cheadle as War Machine.
No, were you going to like Terrence Howard as War Machine?
No, I don't like either of them.
When he looks back and he goes, next time, and then he doesn't get to do it because his agent wanted too much money.
They kicked him off. You're talking about Terrence Howard?
Yeah, I remember.
That was because he was a drunk. They didn't want him back.
It was also implied he wanted a second lead role. He thought he was as big as Robert Downey Jr., so they're like, no, you're not.
I thought that was just because
get back in your hole.
Issues with substance abuse, but
go make Flow and Hustle too.
the issue is Don Cheadle is too old. Sorry, he's tiny, he's squirrely, he's old. He's great in other films. I don't like him as War Machine. I think that he was a cop-out replacement.
He runs a mean hotel.
He runs a mean hotel.
Hotel Rwanda.
But but you know what I mean? I don't care or have any attachment to his character as War Machine with him playing him.
I think the War Machine 3. I thought Iron Man 2 had the same problem, though. Remember, it had too many characters. So, like, War Machine kind of gets shoved off to the side. And even though Don Cheadle, who I think is a good actor, and I agree, he's good in other things, he never had a chance to build the character. So he's just there in a second Iron Man suit. So in Avengers, he shows up again, and it feels like Iron Man 2 all over.
And the only people that I care... So basically what happens is at the end, you see a bunch of the original Avengers are now gone. Thor runs off to Asgard to go do crap.
To go do his third movie.
Yeah. Yeah, to go do... Yeah, something like that. Iron Man goes off to go make a farm somewhere.
Because he doesn't want to be a part of the series anymore.
The Hulk flies away to some unknown island instead of space.
Because he's mad he still doesn't have his own
So they chose not to do Planet Hulk with that then. Because that was originally, I think, what they were planning to do. If I remember right, I thought I read somewhere that the original script concepts had Hulk flying into space because he couldn't control the Quinjet, and that would potentially lead to the Planet Hulk storyline. So it doesn't look like they're doing that yet because they probably need to keep him closer than another planet.
Yeah.
Plus, when did a Quinjet ever be able to go to space? Has that ever been done yet
No.
in any of the movies?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Not that I can think of.
So so they get rid of all them. So they bring in Scarlet Witch, they bring in the Vision, they bring in the Falcon, and then they bring in War Machine.
Yeah.
And then they've got
Scarlet Witch.
Well, I understand Scarlet Witch, but
and the Vision.
Scarlet Witch and the Vision. So there's those four plus Captain America and Black
Natasha,
Widow.
Yeah.
So
Scarlett Johansson playing Scarlett Johansson.
but like the only people that I care about in that at all are potentially the Vision and Scarlet Witch because the Vision's kind of cool,
And the Scarlet Witch because she can bring her brother back to life.
Yeah.
But they don't tell you that.
They don't tell you that, but...
And who knows if they're really going to follow through with that? Because, like...
She shoots red beams and anything can happen with them.
They kind of watered down her powers because Americans wouldn't be able to understand what her actual powers are.
What
in canon. Yeah, in the canon.
Her powers get a little too
So they
far.
just reduced it to like telekinesis and telepathy.
But...
Americans understand that.
Do you think that was too convenient? I mean, because at the rate that they had to... Oh, no.
Rip.
Camera down.
That's too bad.
Don't worry, we have 3 others.
Yeah,
we'll watch them all turn off at the same time.
Da, da, da.
Anyways.
Yeah. Anyway. So I'm wondering if, like, really, that would have just been too convenient to bring Pietro back. He
did sign a multi-movie deal.
Oh, did he?
With Marvel, yeah.
That's interesting. So he's going to have to come back at some point.
Or they'll do a prequel, which I always hate prequels.
Which actor is
Yeah.
this?
Quicksilver.
Oh, yeah, she signed on. Actually, or he. Oh, quick, really?
Yeah.
Maybe that was maybe they did that to like distance themselves from the death, so it'd be more of a surprise because yeah,
Maybe.
he signed on for a lot of films. Now he's dead.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, I agree. It'd be unfortunate if they did a prequel with them, because I don't think a whole lot needs to go into that unless you can finally get the rights back from Fox for the X-Men.
Well, considering they just pulled Spider-Man away from Sony, like you can't say anything. Like Fantastic Four is still up in the air too. Like they make the films kind of like Fantastic Four. The only reason they make them is so Fox can keep the rights. But
Right.
now that Spider-Man's kind of out of the door, it's like, oh, we can kind of like license them back to Marvel and get a little bit of the profit. So I wouldn't
Yeah.
be surprised if the X-Men or something else showed up in a future Avengers film.
Wouldn't be the dumbest idea in the world, that's for sure.
No, they'd have to
more
reboot it.
characters. Just jam them all in.
Yes, you want
we want more.
from the studio that jammed the Vision into a film.
but took out Loki
But took out Loki
for a movie that was pretty much about his scepter.
Yeah, and they actually talked about it. He was in the film in an early cut, and on the DVD version, it's supposed to be 4 hours long, which I might,
What?
yeah, that's how much
What?
film they actually had, and they actually cut out a ton of stuff.
Okay, I can actually kind of believe that, because it really felt like they chopped a ton out of this movie.
Yeah.
At the real end of the day, there was a lot. It was just like, what is going on? And where they left a lot of holes, and they left a lot of just stuff that they breezed by. That kind of just makes me go, where's the rest of the meat, guys?
Well, and Joss Whedon talked about that. He said like Loki was there, and he actually acted as like exposition, but having his character there felt what was the word? He said overstuffed, which is hilarious since the entire film feels like bloated with people.
Well, all right. I guess we'll put this review on hold until the DVD version comes out.
Yes.
See you next time, folks.
Actually, we're about to hit like our cap as far as we want to go. We don't want to take more than about 30 minutes. But I think the movie was great. There was a lot of stuff that we really loved about it, but I think there was a lot of stuff that was kind of mishandled or could lead to future things in the other movies. And if they do, it's going to come as a what the heck? Why did you not even hint to this before in the other in when you had the opportunity?
And I wouldn't turn down the possibility of that, because remember, Captain America 1 wasn't that great of a film, and then when Winter Soldier comes out and you go back and you actually have an appreciation for it because it sets up the characters and all that.
Yeah.
Like maybe things that happen in this film we don't see, like we don't have the foresight, which is really stupid. A film should be a compact 3-act structure, but now it's a universe. I'm sorry, I'm ranting.
But they shouldn't have killed Ultron off completely like that. Because if they bring him back now, and I should put that in quotes, killed Ultron completely.
Yeah.
Because remember when Vision asked him, so you're the last one, he never answered.
That's true.
He never said yes. And I don't know whether they were intending that to be as ambiguous as it came off, but he never said yes. But for them to not even hint, for there nothing in the post-credits, nothing towards the end of the film to even hint that there might still be Ultron out there, that's kind of lame, because he should be in the future movies. I would hope, given the scope that he has in the comic book universe, they would maintain him as a villain for farther on down the road. Come back with somebody, or get involved with Thanos and what goes on there. Because honestly, I don't care about Thanos. Because the Thanos storyline for the comic books means he's going to come in and kill half the people, which might be why they brought in half of the B team of Avengers.
So they can all die.
So they can kill all of them.
Okay,
cares.
we got some spare characters here. I guess we're gonna have to draw a couple straws.
Oh man, War Machine.
Frankly, I could have honestly done without Ultron as a, or at least in this, as he was presented, I could have done without him.
You in looking at the whole universe, you mean?
Yeah, they went with this cliched means of him being a bad guy as, well, the worst enemy for mankind is mankind, so I guess we destroy mankind. So, wait, hold on, stop. You're a robot. Let's think this through for a second. So mankind is its own worst enemy, so you become mankind's worst enemy.
Just because this film is a bad guy.
It does feel, but that really?
I was really hoping they like
Expand.
do some M. Night Shyamalan twist somewhere before the third act of the movie and
Do something.
I wasn't actually going to
pull
drop
some-
this city on you. I was just testing you.
Yeah, well, yeah, pull something
Deeper than that.
Yeah, but like with all the teasers and all the info before the movie came out, I was like, oh, they're going for this. I really hope they don't.
Well,
And they
to an
did.
extent, though, Ultron also to me feels like one of the truest comic book-ish villains that they've done so far. Like there's just a part of Ultron that just seems like he fits as a comic book villain, and I kind of liked that in some ways.
Mhm.
But I totally agree with what you're saying, and totally get that. Like Marvel and Joss Whedon have done so much more to expand and break away from the comic books in a lot of ways, and give us stuff that's more complex or less simplistic in terms of the plot line.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do it this time. At least they didn't seem to.
They just did straight line pretty much.
Because they were too preoccupied with either bringing in or pulling out certain characters.
Because they wanted to get the Vision in there. Like, you could feel they wanted to keep the Scarlet Witch around. They wanted to set
Right.
up the B Team Avengers.
Which makes you wonder,
Hawkeye's family.
Hawkeye. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Hawkeye's
important.
On the boring farm.
is Civil War really going to be the movie that we want and expect it to be? Not saying that they can't do it, but or that because this one wasn't exactly what we envisioned it being, is it going to be sad? Or is it really just, hey, this is what was necessary. This is what was expedient for the universe in order for us to make Civil War what we really want it to be. That way we're not cluttering up Civil War with all of this, let's just call it busy work of filmmaking. You know, the process of exchanging characters and enhancing storylines to an extent that they don't make no sense at all when your main A-team characters leave.
No, I agree. But whatever. Shouldn't that be done in other films?
Yeah, but
Why
Right.
is it the tentpole Marvel Avengers film, the one where we're supposed to get all that information? Why can't this be the big blowout, fun film?
because of how much they would have to interact at that point.
I don't know.
Because if you have too many of these main core characters in a single character's film, if you put too many of these core characters into a single Captain America movie, is it that really then Captain America?
Well, then,
I mean, that's a
Civil War's
constriction.
Why is it not an Iron Man and a Captain America film?
Well, no, but Civil War is going to include more than just Iron Man and Captain America.
that's true. I mean, it's based
It's
on.
going to be closer to an Avengers movie than it will to any one of the singular storylines.
So you're saying I should look forward to that one as the actual Avengers film?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, cool.
I'm saying
Okay.
that they did a lot of stuff here in the second one to make Civil War maybe.
so
more
Age
of
of
the
Ultron
film that they want to be.
didn't happen. Haha.
This is going to be our episode 2 that we never watch. Or, well, I guess episode 1 is really the one we don't watch of Star Wars. But still a good movie. Still a lot of fun. Still, I was busting up laughing and enjoyed the whole
Oh, yeah.
thing. But when you think too much about it and you try and draw too much from it,
You go,
wait.
what was that worth? Why did I care?
almost in some ways. Not, and again, we don't want to be super negative about the movie
I
because
do.
we liked it and such. But
No, and for all the hate I have for it, I saw it, I got dragged to it twice. It is a fun spectacle movie. It's just I wish the first Avengers felt like fun. It felt like playing with your superhero toys again. This one felt like watching a studio go off a checklist and say, okay, we're at this point and we're at this point. This is where Thor is. This is where Iron Man's going.
yeah,
Instead of just hey, balls to the wall fun.
here, watch us try and do too much at one time. Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, but yeah, hopefully everybody enjoyed it. Obviously, a lot of people are because they're making a ton of money with it, which is great. That gives them more money to work with for the next one or next
More money to
bunch
go to
of
Robert
them.
Downey Jr.
for Phase 3.
for Phase 3, and then hopefully for Phase 4. But hopefully you enjoyed this, and hopefully you didn't have everything spoiled for you. But if you did, your fault. And yeah, tune in next time when we talk about another movie. I don't know what the next one that I'm really excited for is at this point.
We'll talk about Goodfellas and how much we love that film.
Goodfellas, that's right.
Age of
Anyway.
Adeline.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, yeah.
Guardians of Gahul.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Avengers Assemble.
Disassemble.